The void stretched before them, vast and silent, a canvas painted with distant stars that flickered like cold fire. Humanity had ventured far beyond the cradle of Earth, threading their ships through wormholes and asteroid belts, guided by a stubborn pulse that refused to accept that the universe was theirs to merely survive in. In the outer rim, where the Galactic Empire had long ruled without opposition, there was only a legend of humans, fragile, laughably primitive, and supposedly obedient. They had underestimated the spark they thought so easily contained. A patrol cruiser, sleek and angular, slid through the darkness like a shadow carved from metal. Its sensors pulsed softly, mapping the silence with unyielding precision. The crew, a mixture of species loyal to the Empire, scanned for anomalies, unaware that the anomaly had already arrived. Below, on a small mining colony, the faint shimmer of human ingenuity worked tirelessly. Machines whirred, lights blinked, and computers traced patterns the Empire's minds could barely comprehend. Humans moved with a strange rhythm, their motions chaotic to the observer, yet impossibly efficient. From orbit, the Empire saw only faint specks of life, scattered like dust across a barren rock. They called it insignificant. And yet, in the deepest bowels of their calculations, they sensed something. A pattern emerging. Signals pulsed across quantum relays, carrying the heartbeat of defiance. It was subtle at first, like whispers across the stars, but as the human engineers aligned their devices, the whispers became a chorus. The Empire could not yet see it, but the human will was aligning with the cosmos itself. On board one of the human vessels, a ship that seemed too small to challenge the enormity of the Empire, the crew gathered around a projection of the enemy fleet. Calculations were rapid, but their faces betrayed none of the fear that should have gripped them. Their eyes were bright with curiosity, with challenge, with amusement at the sheer arrogance of their opponent. They had studied every maneuver, every protocol, and in the quiet hum of their engines, they laughed. Not mockingly, not disrespectfully, but with a deep, resonant laughter born of certainty that intelligence, creativity, and moral conviction could outmatch raw power. The Empire's command, sprawling across several star systems, prepared a show of force. Massive cruisers ignited their engines, casting shadows across planets and moons. Fleets aligned into formations meant to intimidate, meant to crush. And yet, across the void, the humans watched. They did not flinch. Their ships, elegant and unassuming, began to move with a fluidity the Empire could not predict. A dance of calculation and instinct, weaving between sensors and firepower. Always one step ahead, always laughing. In the silence before confrontation, the stars themselves seemed to pause. Light from distant supernovae streaked across the void like spectators leaning forward in anticipation. The human crew looked outward, not with fear, but with wonder. Each calculation was a brushstroke, each maneuver a declaration. They were here, and they would not bow. The Empire might have ruled with iron and expectation, but humans ruled with something subtler, something no fleet, no weapon, no algorithm could ever truly conquer, and somewhere, in the deepest reaches of that expanding darkness, the first human ship slipped through the enemy lines. A spark, bright and defiant. Streaking across the void, signaling to the others that the game had begun, the human fleet moved with uncanny coordination, a web of light and shadow threading through the Empire's formations. Their ships were smaller, weaker by conventional measures, yet every maneuver was precise, almost poetic. In the vast silence of space, they wove around massive cruisers as if gravity itself obeyed their rhythm. The Empire's commanders barked orders, their voices filtered across comms with sharp authority, but the humans did not scramble or panic. They anticipated, adapted, and countered with effortless grace. Explosions bloomed like distant fireworks, illuminating the darkness in fleeting moments of color and chaos. Laser beams cut the void, yet humans dodged them with movements that seemed impossible, leaving the Empire's forces chasing shadows. In their vessels, humans whispered calculations to one another, exchanged glances, and laughed quietly at the absurdity of fear being their opponent's weapon. Every shot they avoided, every system they bypassed, was a testament not just to skill, but to ingenuity and courage. On a bridge far smaller than the Empire would have deemed significant, a human officer observed the chaos with calm clarity. Their mind moved faster than any algorithm, seeing angles and opportunities invisible to automated sensors. A single command, a flick of a finger, and the fleet shifted, folding around the enemy like water over rocks. Imperial officers blinked at the unexpected formations, struggling to interpret logic that was fundamentally alien to them. Intelligence, not brute force, was the edge humans wielded, and they wielded it with confidence, almost joy. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, a silent observer recorded the spectacle. Stars glittered indifferently, yet reflected the defiance of life that refused to kneel. Humans were risking everything, yet their resolve did not falter. A mining vessel, barely more than a converted freighter, darted into the flank of a colossal destroyer. Its small weapons found the gaps, tiny but devastating, and the destroyer staggered as if struck by the hand of fate itself. The humans cheered, not for destruction, but for the audacity to defy an empire that thought itself untouchable. In the calm between skirmishes, ships adjusted course, engines humming with quiet authority. Human crews repaired, recalibrated, and refined, never pausing for arrogance or relief. They shared stories, laughed about miscalculations, and reminded one another why they fought, not for conquest, not for glory, but for existence, for freedom, for the defiance that defined them. Across the void, signals pulsed like a heartbeat, calculations, predictions, countermeasures, all flowing into one consciousness of determination. The Empire, immense and proud, began to falter, unable to account for the human spirit. Their fleets moved with rigidity, predictably, bound by protocols and fear of failure. Humans moved with imagination, bending the rules of engagement as if the universe itself was an ally. In the eye of this cosmic storm, humanity's laughter rang across the stars, a sound unbroken by the roar of weapons. It was a chorus of pride, a declaration of existence. The universe could threaten, intimidate, and dominate, but humans would respond with intellect, courage, and unyielding joy. And in that moment, the first cracks appeared in the Empire's armor, not in metal, but in certainty. The battlefield stretched wider than any map could capture, a theater of stars where human and imperial forces danced on the edge of annihilation. Nebulae glowed like ancient fires, casting ghostly light over ships that glinted like shards of glass. Humans moved not as individuals but as a single organism, each vessel anticipating the others, weaving a pattern that no brute force could unravel. Their smaller ships slipped between enemy lines, striking at critical nodes, then vanishing into the void, leaving the Empire scrambling in confusion. On board a human command vessel, officers huddled around holodisplays, plotting trajectories with elegant simplicity. Calculations that might have taken the Empire hours were processed in seconds, the human mind bending probability into a tool of defiance. Every maneuver carried an undertone of humor. An almost imperceptible joy in outsmarting an opponent that considered them insignificant. The enemy could not grasp it. The humans fought with neither desperation nor arrogance, but with a quiet certainty that they could not fail. Explosions erupted across the void, bright enough to pierce the darkness, yet humans treated each one like a passing storm. Shields flared, lasers traced arcs through empty space, and colossal cruisers groaned under attacks they could not predict. Human engineers, seated in cramped cockpits, recalibrated weapons and shields mid-battle, improvising solutions no AI could calculate. Their minds were fluid, adaptive, alive, responding to chaos with creative precision. In the heart of a nearby asteroid field, a human frigate maneuvered with breathtaking audacity. Imperial drones swarmed, attempting to corner it, yet the vessel folded through tunnels of rock, slipping through gaps smaller than its hull. Its crew laughed, not at destruction, but at the thrill of defiance. From orbit, other humans observed and mirrored, the laughter spreading across the fleet like a contagion. In every corridor, every control deck, every observation window, they felt the same pulse of exhilaration. The universe was vast, terrifying, and yet theirs to challenge. The Empire, massive and relentless, began to react in fits of confusion. Commanders argued, recalculated. and enforced protocols that human minds anticipated before the ink was dry. Entire formations were rendered irrelevant, their strategies outpaced by improvisation, intuition, and audacity. Across the battlefield, human ships converged on critical points, not in a straight line of attack, but in a flowing, unpredictable pattern that left the enemy staggering, and in the quiet moments between strikes, when the lasers paused and the void seemed endless, the humans took a breath. They watched the stars with awe, sharing small smiles, jokes, and stories of home. Even as destruction reigned around them, their humanity remained intact, a defiance of both the Empire and the cold, indifferent cosmos. Every action, every calculation, every laughter-filled maneuver was a message. They would not kneel. They would not obey. They would not fade. Through the nebulae, through the wreckage of crumpled metal and fire, the human fleet surged onward. Their presence was a statement carved into the universe itself. Intelligence, courage, and joy could topple certainty, no matter how vast. The Empire had underestimated them, and every moment of this battle would remind the galaxy why humanity refused to be tamed. The battlefield shifted as if the stars themselves were watching, bending light around the spiraling dance of war. Human ships moved with effortless agility, threading through debris fields and magnetic storms. Using hazards the Empire feared as cover and advantage. Each maneuver was a statement. Humans did not simply fight, they orchestrated chaos into art. The enemy fired relentlessly, massive beams carving arcs of destruction, yet humans slipped between them, anticipating trajectories with uncanny precision. In the quiet hum of a human carrier, engineers monitored energy flows and shield harmonics, adjusting frequencies in real time. They whispered possibilities to one another, laughed at the audacity of improvisation, and then executed actions the Empire could never predict. A scout vessel, no larger than a shuttle, darted into the flank of a battleship, triggering a cascade of failures in its automated systems. The enormous ship staggered, blinking warnings across its hull, and for a moment, the Empire could glimpse the impossible, humans bending the rules of engagement with intellect and intuition. Across the void, asteroid belts became arenas of ingenuity. Humans maneuvered through fields of tumbling rock, using gravity wells to accelerate or shield themselves. They struck at weak points, then vanished before retaliation could arrive, leaving the Empire chasing ghosts. Every calculated risk, every daring incursion, carried not desperation, but the unmistakable thrill of challenge. The enemy had expected fear, they received laughter and cleverness instead, in the corridors of human vessels. The crews were alive with energy. Faces glowed under holographic displays, hands moved over controls with confident rhythm, and voices carried a tone of wonder and determination. Even amid the roar of distant explosions and the flash of incoming fire, humans paused to observe, to strategize, to marvel at what they could achieve. They were small in size, but colossal in resolve. The universe may have been vast and indifferent, but it would learn to reckon with their will. The Empire's fleet, though immense, began to fracture under the weight of unpredictability. Rigid protocols crumbled against the fluidity of human tactics. Commanders struggled to adapt, to predict, to dominate, but every calculation was anticipated, countered, or rendered irrelevant. Human ingenuity was a force the Empire had never faced, a reminder that no amount of power could fully anticipate creativity paired with courage, and yet, in these moments of chaos, a profound serenity settled over the human crews. They watched the stars, felt the pulse of distant suns, and shared quiet thoughts of home, of Earth, of why they fought. Every maneuver, every counterattack, every burst of laughter was not just defiance, it was a testament to life, to the stubborn, irrepressible light of humanity against the darkness of expectation. The Empire could threaten, intimidate, and fire upon them, but it could not conquer their spirit. And that spirit surged forward. Unbroken, unstoppable, and radiant, the clash of fleets had stretched across light years, yet the humans moved with an eerie calm, as if the universe itself bent to their strategy. Their ships, though smaller and seemingly fragile, danced through the Empire's ranks, weaving between colossal warships with a rhythm that was both daring and precise. Each maneuver was a message, whispered across the void: you cannot break us. You cannot predict us. You cannot scare us. Explosions lit distant nebulae, painting the darkness with streaks of orange, blue, and white. Debris spiraled like celestial confetti, yet human vessels navigated it effortlessly, using wreckage as cover and advantage. A frigate, barely larger than a shuttle, slipped between two destroyers, releasing a pulse that disabled their sensors before vanishing into an asteroid field. From orbit, other human ships mirrored the tactic, creating a symphony of unpredictability that left the Empire staggering. On board a human command vessel, officers worked in perfect harmony, sharing calculations with gestures, glances, and a few whispered jokes. They laughed not out of arrogance, but out of the profound recognition that what they were doing, defying an empire, turning fear into creativity, was extraordinary. Every improvisation was a statement, every success a testament to intelligence, courage, and unyielding spirit. The Empire, in all its vastness and might, was beginning to crumble under the weight of human ingenuity. Amid the chaos, quiet moments of reflection emerged. Crew members gazed at distant stars, thinking of Earth, of the families and lives they had left behind. The galaxy was indifferent, yet they carved their presence into it, not through dominance, but through tenacity and cleverness. Even in the midst of war, humanity's essence, its curiosity, its hope, its joy, remained intact. The Empire's commanders, massive and rigid, attempted to restore order, to predict and suppress. Yet each attempt faltered. Humans moved like a single mind, anticipating, improvising, and laughing at the absurdity of rules that sought to contain them. Their attacks were precise but inventive, their defenses adaptive and fluid. What the Empire mistook for chaos was, in truth, a masterpiece of strategy, audacity, and human spirit. And in the calm moments between strikes, when stars glimmered across the void like silent witnesses, humans allowed themselves a brief, shared understanding. They were not just surviving, they were defining themselves. Against an empire that sought to intimidate, they had not bowed. Against a void that could swallow worlds, they had not faltered. The universe had witnessed a spark of defiance so pure and bright that even the mightiest fleets could not extinguish it. Humanity surged onward, radiant, clever, unbroken, and laughing. The void had grown thick with the residue of battle, flaring energy, shattered hulls, and streaks of drifting debris, but humanity moved through it like a force of inevitability. Every human vessel, from the smallest scout to the largest command cruiser, carried the same pulse of resolve. They would not yield, they would not bend, and they would not hide. Across the expanse, the Galactic Empire's once mighty fleets quivered under the weight of unpredictability. Algorithms and protocols, designed to dominate, faltered against the fluid creativity of human minds. A massive destroyer, nearly a kilometer in length, lumbered through the void, its sensors straining to track the agile human ships. And yet, no matter how tightly it coordinated its fire, humans slipped past, turning the Empire's power into spectacle. Missiles were rerouted mid-flight, beams diverted by shields that seemed to anticipate each angle of attack, and countermeasures executed with precision that was almost musical. In the cockpits, humans laughed at the absurdity. The Empire believed fear was the weapon. Humans had made strategy, adaptability, and joy their arsenal. Deep within the command vessel, officers coordinated not through rigid hierarchy but through shared intuition. Every mind contributed to a larger pattern. Every calculation harmonized with instinct and creativity. Across consoles, holograms displayed fluid trajectories of enemy formations, which humans responded to not with panic, but with solutions born in the intersection of imagination and logic. One by one, the Empire's cruisers faltered, their enormous bulk rendered irrelevant by a fleet that could vanish and reappear, strike and retreat, predict and outmaneuver. In the midst of this cosmic ballet, human engineers worked miracles. Ships that should have failed under the strain of continuous maneuvering held together, reinforced by improvisations no AI could calculate. Systems were rerouted, energy redistributed, weapons calibrated mid-battle with the calm focus of craftsmen. The humans were not simply fighting, they were redefining the rules of engagement. In every maneuver, every laugh, every careful calculation, they etched into the universe a testament. Brilliance and courage could defy brute power. Across the battlefield, entire formations of the Empire's fleet began to fracture. Their officers, trained to command by procedure, scrambled to adapt. But human unpredictability made each reaction a step behind. Fleets that once inspired terror now hesitated, staggered, and ultimately failed to anticipate the audacity of their opponent. A single human frigate would dart between 3 destroyers, releasing a wave of electromagnetic pulses that crippled their systems, and vanish into the stars. And the humans, observing this, would simply laugh, not mockingly, but in pure exhilaration, delighting in the impossible. Even in moments of quiet between skirmishes, humanity's spirit shone. Crews would gaze out at distant suns, watch dying stars, or marvel at nebulae, sharing stories, jokes, and thoughts of home. The galaxy was vast and indifferent, yet humans infused it with courage, creativity, and joy. They repaired, recalibrated, and prepared, never for conquest, but for survival, for defiance, for the affirmation that existence itself was worth celebrating. In the final surge, the human fleet moved as one entity, a flowing organism of light and purpose. They bypassed the Empire's strongest lines, striking at critical nodes, dismantling command arrays, and leaving ships crippled or adrift. Every action was deliberate, every calculation a message. And when a massive Imperial flagship attempted to crush a human carrier, a coordinated ballet of small vessels surrounded it, exploiting vulnerabilities, misdirecting fire, and turning its power against itself. The once mighty ship erupted in controlled bursts of energy, illuminating the void like a dying supernova, while humans watched and laughed at the sheer audacity of their defiance. And then, as the Empire reeled, a silence fell. Not the silence of defeat, but the quiet of understanding. Across the battlefield, humans looked to one another, faces illuminated by distant stars, knowing that they had done more than survive. They had carved a story of pride, courage, and intellect into the cosmos. They had taken a force that sought to intimidate, to dominate, and they had transformed it into a canvas for ingenuity, for laughter, for life itself. The Empire would retreat, humbled, uncertain, and forever altered. And across the void, as human vessels sailed forward into the glittering unknown, one thought echoed among them all, simple and profound: the universe may be infinite, but humanity's spirit was limitless. And in the quiet aftermath, across the vast canvas of stars, one small voice, or perhaps the voice of all of them together, whispered, carrying across the void like a promise: we are here, and we will not bow.